unwillingly, in a way, I will switch to English because that's probably the language that most of you understand. As a scientist, I think that English is the best language and the worst language. It's the best language because it's understandable to most people, but it is the worst language for making a connection with people. I think if you speak English to a non-native speaker, it's not their language. You don't make a connection with them. As Nelson Mandela said, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, you talk to his head. If you talk to him in his language, you talk to his heart. So speaking English, I'm probably talking to a lot of heads, but not so many hearts. So I somehow feel uncomfortable giving a talk praising other languages in English. It's a sort of a contradiction in terms. So, unwillingly, I will give this presentation in English. I will share my screen with you now. Okay. So let's start. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you very much for your interest in my talk today. It's entitled "Using Twitter to Learn and Maintain Languages." So you're tweeting to kill two birds with one stone. Okay, so I'll tell you about my personal experiences, but what I think would be very valuable would be to have a discussion at the end where people can also share their own experiences about social media, because I'm not claiming that my experiences are representative for everybody. Okay, so on the subject of killing two birds with one stone, pardon me for using a very English expression in a talk which is praising other languages. It's a very English thing to do because only English speakers kill two birds with one stone in Europe. So here in red, you will see the countries where they do something horrible with birds. Yeah. So, but only the English speakers you killed the two birds with one stone. In Italian, for instance, you say prendere due piccioni con una fava, so to take two pigeons, with one bean. In Central Europe, it's not the birds that dominate, but it's the flies. And here, the flies are killed in various ways with one slap, with one fly swatter. So in German, you would say, zwei Fliegen mit einer Klappe schlagen. In Dutch, you would say, also twee vliegen in een klap slaan. In Czech, you would say, zabij dvě mouchy jednou ránou, and so on. And in Eastern Europe, you have the hares which are killed. So in Russian, you say ubit dvůch zajców jedním výstřelem. So you kill two hares with one shot. And same in something similar in Romanian, Bulgarian. The Polish people are less violent. They upiece so dvě pieczenia w jednym ogniu. So they roast two pieces of meat in one fire. And the French, they're hitting two things with a stone, but they can't decide what exactly they want to hit. Yeah. So that's one of the wonderful things about language, is that it's the same concept, but expressed slightly differently in all these languages. And English, the way English speakers do it, is not the same as others. English speakers need to know that their language is strange. Yes, if you speak English, your language is strange. It's not like that everywhere. I wish I need to tell that to my students often. So, tweeting to kill two birds with one stone. Now, for free, Twitter does not cost anything, which is the great thing is you can find all these languages, on Twitter. These are all the languages that I have some knowledge of. Okay, and Twitter is a very monolingual place. Just because English is the most popular language there, it doesn't mean that you have to use English all the time. And also, that's the first bird that you're killing. And the second bird that you're killing is that you can enjoy the place. Twitter is social media, is meant for social interaction. You can have fun with people. You can enjoy them. And then you can also, hopefully improve their mood as well. I know that Twitter apparently has a bad reputation. There's a saying, if you don't have something nice to say it on Twitter. But the language learning community in Twitter has been very nice, I found. And one of the things I want to do is actually to praise people in the language learning community. I mean, there are people there who are very famous, like Lindy Boters and Richard Simcott, and they're, brilliant, as you all know. But there are also lots of people there who have a lot to offer, and I really want to show you a lot of their tweets just to show, share their wisdom and insights with you today. So it's just a personal story. I'll tell you how I started with Twitter. I'm actually a scientist. I work at a university, but I use languages a lot. So I started to use it when I was organizing an online conference, but then I realized the potential for learning languages. And I'll explain how Twitter helps me to maintain languages and learn languages. So there's a variety of languages, so you can maintain all the languages that you already know. And I've started learning on Twitter, or rather butchering on Twitter, Romanian and Catalan. And there are a lot of interesting people on Twitter, and there are a lot of interesting tweets to read. And so, consistency is one of the keys to learning. And so on Twitter, on social media, it's designed to be used every day, so it's easy to be consistent. And as I also want to thank a lot of people who are on the language learning community, because I've learned a lot from them. They may not be as famous as some polyglots who, like Luca Ramparello or whoever, but they also deserve a mention, I think. So how are we going to kill our birds with the stone? Well, Twitter, I find, is very useful for reading because you have tweets, short texts, and you also have short threads that you can read, and you can use those to gain knowledge about your target language. And also, you can write. It's very easy to write. You can tweet, and that makes it more interactive and it's more fun. Languages are meant to be used. But what is also good is that you can use languages actually to make a difference on Twitter. So one thing I do to practice Romanian and Catalan is I just find somebody's tweet and then I just write about it in Romanian or Catalan. And so that's just showing respect for their contribution, showing appreciation for them. It's something nice for them. And writers thrive on feedback, and tweeters, it's just they're little authors. They write little things, but they love to have feedback as well. And this is not a sort of scientific presentation, it's just a case study. So at the end, it would be nice to hear all your thoughts as well. Okay, so this is my Twitter account. Again, I wasn't really planning to open it one, but I thought it might be useful for occasional scientific communication. So this is a picture of me before I added some corona kilos as in front of Moskovsky Gosudarственный Universitet, the main building of Moscow State University in Russia, where I was at the conference. So I thought I should try to give the impression that I'm open to the world. So then I thought, what the hell am I going to tell about myself? Well, I said I'm interested in biomaterials for biomedical applications. Yeah, just one thing. I think one or two of you should mute their mics, to be honest. Okay, just thought I should mention that. I'm also very interested, as you may guess, in languages. And I really one of the things I love most about my work is collaborating with people from other countries, such as Russia, Poland, the Czech Republic. And this is where, you can combine your interests in biomaterials and languages, very nicely. And then I just thought, how will I fill the space? And then one of my, I lead a research group, and one of my postdoctoral researchers said, you're a great source of useless information. So I thought I'd put that in, because actually I think the useless information in life is underrated, because that's often what makes life more enjoyable. So if something is useless, that doesn't mean that it's not worth knowing. Often it can make your life better. So that's how I started. Now, here's a nice picture of a broken bone and some materials. I work on biomaterials for biomedical applications. So if you have a tissue, most tissues have a capacity for self-regeneration. So if you have a bone that breaks, you have a blood clot, and then something called a callus forms, which is like cartilage or fibrocartilage to be more precise, that stabilizes the break. And then you have this cartilage then turns into bone, and then it remodels, and then your bone is more or less like normal. If you have a good surgeon, he or she should stabilize these two ends with metal plate so that the healing is accelerated. But there are certain cases where a piece of tissue is missing, maybe as a result of injury, or you may have to take out a tumor, and then these won't heal by themselves because the gap is too big. So you have to insert or implant something into these gaps to help the regeneration. Okay. Now, I don't want you to give you too much science, but basically this requires collaboration between people who make these materials, like myself. Then we need biologists, and we also need doctors. Who will see if tissue forms well on these materials. Okay. And since this is a language event, all the languages that I have learned to a certain extent have actually been useful in my career in a way. So my first language is English. I come from the United Kingdom and I grew up monolingual. And I use a lot for my work German and Dutch and Russian and Polish. So I use these almost every day for some kind of communication with collaborators. I can have a conversation in Czech or Italian or French. So I could give this talk in these languages, but with some difficulty. And then I'm at a basic level in Chinese and Finnish and Romanian and Catalan. And Twitter has been very helpful in enabling me to learn Romanian and Catalan. But even though I don't know these languages very well, if I use them, with my colleagues, it still helps to create a rapport with them, So even a language spoken, as Cato Lomba, one of the famous simultaneous translators, said, even a language spoken badly is still, worth knowing. Yeah. Okay, so I started using Twitter because I was organizing an online conference, which was UK Poland. So again, I use Polish a lot to collaborate with colleagues from this AGH University in Krakow. And we had a poster session that was online, and the way that it worked was people were encouraged to set up their own Twitter accounts. Now, Twitter seems to be more popular in Western Europe than it is in the maybe I'm showing my age by saying this, but it's more popular there than in the former communist countries. And there, so a lot of Poles actually opened their Twitter accounts for the first time, when they took part in our conference. So I'm guessing that when it comes to language learning, we should stress that some countries, for some languages, Twitter will be better than others, simply because Twitter is more popular in certain countries. But that's how I got started. Now, when I got started with learning languages, this is quite an interesting quote by that it's a good community, the language learning community on Twitter. Now, the main drawback is a lot of people spend too much time on social media and not enough time learning languages. Well, people, if you're going to spend a lot of time on social media, why not use the time productively to learn something? And so I had actually never thought, this lady, Catalan lady, commented on this, and I had never thought before that I was actually actively using social media to learn languages. But then I thought, yeah, that's actually what I'm doing. And I noticed as well that there are many other people, in the language learning community, just to name a few, who are tweeting often in different languages and then using this site to improve their skills and connect with people. Now, I was saying that some languages are more popular than others, but I've been able to find all these ones on Twitter. So there's a great variety. I really like this guy called Mark. He's very active in the community. He tweets a lot, and he has obviously a great passion for languages. He really loves them. And he also has a lot of good quotes, and here's one of them: language is best when used no matter what level you are, use it if you have the opportunity. I agree wholeheartedly. And he also stresses here, there are many languages to be learned. I mean, Twitter is basically just like one of these buffets where you can have a lot of different dishes, and you can have a bit of all of them. I didn't like one of these all you can eat restaurants where you choose these different dishes. And also, one good thing about Twitter is it's very easy to use for a short period of time, so it's compatible with a busy schedule. Here's another guy who does a lot of good quotes, Laid Back Languages. He says, just focus on doing something in your target language every day, whatever, just for a bit. And here we have Mark saying, we have lots of spaces of 10 or 15 minutes in a day. And then you could do a lot of learning in these periods. Yeah. And if you have these little windows in the day, it's easy to fit in a tweet or two or read a few tweets. So, I mean, if you go to, I don't know, if you're waiting for the bus, if the bus is late, as it often is in my city, then, you have a little time to read a tweet or maybe tweet something very quickly, lots of these dead windows you can use. And social media is designed, for everyday use. This is another guy I like reading about on Twitter, Ace Buck, and he's a mechanical engineering student, but he's also very enthusiastic about French and Spanish and Chinese in particular. And he talks about how he learns languages, and he puts it very nicely here. If you make it so that the everyday activities which you do and social interactions that you have take place in multiple languages, then you're guaranteed to interact with your target languages, even if you miss active study sessions. So as you all know, if the language is part of your life, you will use it automatically. So if you're using Twitter every day, and your Twitter is meant to be used every day, then you're using it consistently, you're learning consistently without really trying. And another good point he makes, I have the same view with Ace on this point. Social media has lots of bubbles, but I just really use it, for the language learning related content. Now, that I don't mean things like exercise books or textbooks, or the main really good language learning related content are things that are written in different languages that I can read and I can respond to, or your good advice from people who just love language in general. That's a more useful content for me than textbooks, to be honest. Now, also, one nice thing about Twitter is the community, because if you have lots of people studying together, it actually stimulates you to study more. And I particularly like this guy, sort of Kenny, who is a very modest but very knowledgeable polyglot, but he's always very encouraging towards everybody, and creates a nice atmosphere. He speaks several Romance and several Germanic languages, including Catalan, and since I started with that, he's been very encouraging. And what I also like about Kenny is he makes a point of valuing what other people do. So here, David here is saying, we shouldn't be focusing on perfection. We should be focusing on what's more realistic. And here Kenny says something here tweets something here to encourage him. And then Mark here is talking about how he has an experience with a student. And then Kenny shows his appreciation by retweeting him. I think that's very nice. And in this talk, I actually want to do what Kenny is already doing for people on Twitter. So saying something to validate everybody's contributions. Now, and it's actually really nice to have people who are also interested in multiple languages. So about a year ago, I was completely unaware of the polyglot community or the language learning community, and I thought that I was the only person who was interested in learning several languages. And Kenny here has very nicely acknowledged what I've said. Okay. Also, you have people who share their language learning journeys and how they learn languages. And it's quite it's interesting to see the diversity in the community. So you have some people who write a lot about how they plan their day, how they've organized their day to fit in language learning and so on. But I like the attitude of Petra, who is learning many, many languages. And she has as much dedication and I'm sure effort as anyone else, but she's very relaxed about it, which I think is good. So this tweet sort of sums up sort of her mentality and mine, which is it's fine not to have any goals or any study plans or any routine. Okay, you can still be successful. You don't have to be a good planner, but if you're a good opportunist and you use your chances, then you will still make progress. And you have to learn languages in a way which you enjoy. I mean, that's obvious. I personally don't like planning, things, and I don't really like a fixed routine, but I do like having fun with people. I do like taking advantages of opportunities when they arise during the day, these little windows of 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. So, doing this on Twitter actually suits, my style very well. So being unstructured and having no routine doesn't necessarily mean being inconsistent. And at the last Polyglot conference, there was this discussion about the best method to learn languages. And this guy here put it in the most succinct way. He said, the best method is the method that you will stick with. Now, Twitter, I find, is because it's interactive and because you only write a little bit in each tweet, it's much easier to stick with than other methods like, reading or, watching a film every week or whatever. So how can Twitter improve, your skills? I mean, I'm aware that in language learning, there are hard skills like, reading and listening, speaking and writing. There are a lot of other soft skills as well, which are not really talked about, such as, sometimes the ability to take advantage of opportunities, sometimes the ability to, be willing to make mistakes, the ability to, ask yourself some questions. Which is the language that I really, want to learn, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Twitter, I think, is my favorite form, actually, of practicing a language by reading, because it's so easy to do for the following reasons. Maybe some of you know a story learning method by Ollie Richards here, and that's available in loads of languages. I think it's a great idea. You're doing something that you enjoy, it's based on extensive reading. So you enjoy the reading, and then while you are enjoying the experience, you pick up new words and expressions. That's great. But I think for the same reason, tweet learning is also a great method. It's also extensive reading. You're reading people's tweets, you're enjoying them, but you get new material daily. So because some people tweet very often, so you'll have something to read every day, like a newspaper almost. But and you can also interact with the author. So Ollie Richards' books are fun, but you can't interact with Ollie Richards. But you can exchange some views with the author, and that makes it more enjoyable. So I like following this lady very much. She tweets in Catalan, and what I also like about it, she writes here, it's beautiful to share fixed expressions and expressions of your whole life. Do you know these ones, or do you use them? If my Catalan is still not good, I hope that was right, is to go with syringes, or every country does its war, which basically means everybody solves their problems in their own way. And this one, to come with syringes with come with something that's unpleasant. But I also think while we're here that, learning methods based on fixed expressions are very interesting, because you can see the differences between cultures. So at the start, I was talking about killing two birds with one stone is a very English thing to do. Other European countries don't do that. And similarly, different cultures will have similar but different expressions. Okay, and these can be rather, revealing. They can tell you about the culture, but they also have a good value in themselves. Learning idiomatic expressions is very helpful in building a bond with speakers of that language. So if you're able to say, for instance, kill two birds with one stone in another language, that will impress people. That will help you to bond with them. That will show that you really understand, their culture better. So that's why I would say, learn idiomatic, language, and also, try to. This is why I like following, Maria Jose so much, because she's constantly tweeting out these Catalan fixed expressions. Okay, and also why it's a very good source of comprehensible input. I mean, there are people on YouTube like Steve Kaufmann talking all the time about the hypothesis, the Stephen Krashen and his comprehensible input hypothesis. I don't know it very well, but you can get lots of comprehensible input on Twitter and in small chunks, which are easy to digest. So here, for instance, Maria Jose is saying, Deixa que sin vicoquin amtu, let people be wrong about you, no has de demonstrares, you don't have to show anything. Qui no et conhece dubtara del teves raions, e qui testima no les necessita. So people who don't know you will doubt your reasons. People who love you, who know you, don't have to. And anyway, these short messages are easy to digest. And if you don't understand, you can use Google Translate, which will help you to understand. Okay. And, this is comprehensible and it's regular input. Okay. So, and you can do this, daily, consistently. So I wrote to her here, I like reading your messages. I'm learning languages daily. Comprehensible input and attractive is, very important. And so, you can interact with the writer of the comprehensible input and, show your appreciation for them. Okay, so tweeting, I think, deserves a sort of a category of itself, somewhere between speaking and writing. Okay, so it has certain advantages, in my opinion. It's more spontaneous than writing an email. It's easier to tweet than to write. So the tweets are shorter, and so it's easier to do them more often, consistently. It's better than speaking because it's not so spontaneous. There's less pressure to react quickly, so you can take a bit more time, okay? And the nice thing as well is many people can read it on Twitter, so you can get feedback from people. And because you're on Twitter, you have so many sources of inspiration. There are so many people tweeting about so many things. It's easy to find something to tweet about. So you just find somebody's tweet that you like, and then you just quote it and you respond to it. And then you can improve somebody's mood because you've acknowledged what they've said. You've shown them, we learn languages to show people that we appreciate them, their language, their culture. We want to understand them better. You're doing the same thing when you tweet, you respond to somebody's message. You show you are worth reading about. What you write interests me. You deserve to be acknowledged. You are helping me. Yeah. Okay. So my biggest inspiration on Twitter for the method I use is Kate here of Travel Languages. And I noticed that she was tweeting all the time in Portuguese and Catalan and Spanish. And in the meantime, she tweets in even more. And by tweeting, she practices. And so I thought, could I do that? Yeah. Okay. So how did I start to learn learn new languages on Twitter? So I hadn't actually learned another language for 16 years, or a fundamentally new language. But one day I came across this exchange from Lindy Boters. So she bought an iPad, and then she said, I accidentally selected Romanian as the interface language. I think it's time to learn Romanian. And then people joked with her. They said, oh, accidentally, oh, don't expose my subconscious. So I thought to myself, oh, Romanian. Yeah, why the hell not? I have collaboration partners in Romania, so I can use it to build a better relationship with them. And then I thought, well, I haven't learned a new language for ages, and sometimes it's good to be a beginner because you feel so powerless and helpless, like a small child again. It's good to experience that. So I thought to myself, right, let's do this experiment. I thought of it more like a joke, but I think absurdity is something that really stimulates me. Silliness can be a great stimulator, and if it drives you to learn more languages, better. So I decided that Lindy Boters has allegedly chosen Romanian wrongly. But I also admire the strategy of Kate, who learns languages by tweeting. So I thought to myself, let's just tweet in Romanian every day and let's see how far I get. Okay. So I just aimed for, I thought maybe I can do this. I can be consistent because the tweets are short. Okay. And Twitter is interactive, so it might be fun to do it. And so I thought, let's see how far it goes. Okay. And so I looked for resources, and very ironically, these were two books that I bought with a discount when I lived in Germany. Just a phrase book, sort of a German-Romanian, and here is a rather uninspiring textbook. But I remember buying them with a discount 15 years ago in Germany, but I never used them until now. So finally, the discount has paid off, And the other resource I like using are these, is just this automatic translator. They have an infinite amount of patience, and they're useful in showing you how you can put sentences together. Now, I know they're not perfect. So in general, I only use what they tell me if I can understand it. Okay, so I'm not sort of just copying and pasting without some thinking between the copying and the pasting. Okay. And my philosophy with language learning is like playing a musical instrument. If you want to play a musical instrument well, you have to play it very often and very badly first to become better. This guy speaks about 20 languages, Christopher, and he always every week he comes out with these inspiring quotes, and he says here, making mistakes is a vital part of language learning. Okay. And I would go further and say, to speak a language well, you just have to start butchering it and keep butchering it. Okay. And butchering a language is better than not using it at all. So what question comes up from M here? What do you pride yourself on? And what I'm proud of doing as a language learner, above everything, is not giving a damn if I make mistakes, because then I feel better if I completely butcher a language in front of everybody. I feel that I would feel worse if I remained silent and hadn't tried to use the language at all. And then if you notice here, I actually make a mistake in this sentence. English is my first language, but I made a mistake. I should have said, I pride myself on making a fool of myself, but I just write, I pride myself on making a fool of myself. So again, if I had, I made a mistake, if you make a mistake in your own language, then, what's wrong? Don't feel bad about making mistakes in other languages either, Okay. So here's some butchering Romanian. Now, butchering Romanian on Twitter is fun because you interact with each other, with other people, and that makes it easy to continue. And that's, I think what social media is meant to be about: interaction, fun, daily use. So here thanks to, because it's interactive, here I learned how to say a very important phrase. How do you say in Romanian, I love butchering the Romanian language on Twitter? And then I got the answer here, ador să stalcesc limba română pe Twitter, okay? So Twitter is a great source of information. Now, then I thought to myself, well, what can I do to make this more consistent? Because maybe I'll run out of things to say. And I like very much Carlos's website here, the hyperpolyglot activist, and his slogan is, learn languages, make a difference. So if you, I urge you to check out his website, because he has a lot of thought-provoking videos and he challenges a lot of common assumptions about language, okay? Okay, so one question, can you still see the screen? Can somebody say yes, please? Yes. Excellent, thank you. So, so I thought, could we apply Carlos's slogan, learn languages, make a difference, to tweeting, okay? So I thought, well, I'll start continuing to butcher Romanian, but I'll try to make a difference to somebody's day just by tweeting about them. Okay, so here, I admire, I was talking previously about Petra. I very, like the fact she has a lot of enthusiasm. She shares her story with us, and, she loves, she's so open about it. So I tried to say this here. And then I thought, well, I'll tweet about somebody every day, so I can kill my two birds with one stone. I can practice Romanian, and I can also recognize somebody's efforts. And this habit became much easier to maintain than trying to think, instead of trying to find inspiration in my head, I tried to find inspiration on Twitter, okay? So then I continued, and I would say in 2/3 of the, no more than, in 2/3 of the cases, I get a positive response from the person I write about. And then in another approximately 1/6 of the case, I get an I like. So I think in general, it is well received. I try to tweet about, somebody new every day. So after 22 days, I talked about this Catalan lady, so Eva. And then obviously I was just saying that I liked the languages that she was learning, whether people thought that they were useless or not. And then she said, she wrote me this message of encouragement, thank you very much, okay? So that's also a motivation to keep going, positive reactions, as you know. But it also, one strength of Twitter, in the same exchange, Lalin here very kindly commented, and she made some suggestions about how I could improve my Romanian. And that's another advantage of Twitter. It's open to everybody, so everybody can contribute. Yeah. Okay, and I'm still going with it now because it's become a habit. Now, this is from a few days ago, tweet 135. And now I just look for a tweet done by somebody which inspires me, and then I just comment on it to say that I like it. So this lady is a teacher of languages at a school, I think Spanish, and she was saying how she taught all the class to speak salam alaikum to an Afghan refugee, and how just this word had a great effect on the girl who had come into their class. So the power of language for connecting with people. And then I just wrote here that it was really great that she understood this, and that she had been such a great example, to her children. And then she even responded in Romanian, many thanks. So, this, thanks to these features of Twitter, I've been able to keep this up every day, and I'm still continuing, So I also started Catalan, and I was also inspired by people on Twitter, and people who speak. There are actually a lot of people who know Catalan on Twitter, maybe because Catalan is a Western European language. But I got a very positive reaction from when I started to learn on Twitter. And it also emphasizes the fact that if the less mainstreamer languages, the more powerful it is, because the people who speak it appreciate you more. If somebody says to you, oh, what the hell are you learning that language for? In a negative way, like you're wasting your time. That's a good sign, because imagine that's exactly what somebody else will say who speaks that language. Will say, oh, what the hell are you learning my language for? But in a positive way. Okay, so learning non-mainstream languages, I think, is more powerful than learning mainstream languages. I've certainly found that in my career, when I've collaborated with people from other countries speaking languages that are less mainstream, like Polish and Czech, I get a much better reaction, a better cooperation than speaking Western European languages. And it's fun to butcher languages. I just say, so here's one butchery of Catalan. Patri is also somebody who I like following because she's very interested in Asian languages, and she was making a video. And I was already excited to see it. So I said, ja estic excitat. And then I learned from this exchange that I just told her that I was already horny because of her video as well. So, that I'm glad that I made that mistake, because it shows it's my philosophy. I don't care about making mistakes, but I also learned something from doing it. Yeah. So unfortunately, she understood that what I actually meant. But and to finally, Twitter actually has helped me by putting me into contact, with people who have helped me to become a member of this HYPEA, this Hyperpolyglot Association. And it's a very nice group. They're people who all, love languages. And it was the people on Twitter, so especially Petro and Carlos, who I've mentioned, also the director of recruitment, Matthias, he's also very active on Twitter. Thanks very much to them. Thanks to them, I was able to join the club, okay? So to sum up, killing two birds with one stone by learning languages on Twitter. Twitter will help you learn languages. You can read just short texts, and you can tweet in many languages. And it's very, very easy to do consistently because tweets are short, okay? Use the advantage of social media. It's designed for daily use, so it's designed for consistent use, and consistency is good for language learning. And languages can help you and others enjoy Twitter. By trying to use your languages, you can have fun, but also you can show your appreciation for all the nice people who are also learning languages on Twitter as well. So finally, thanks to everybody who's learning languages on Twitter for making this community. There are so many people out there who are nice, who deserve a mention. So I wish that I had more time now to mention them all. Thank you for your attention. And that's all from me. And if you have questions, or if you'd like to share some of your experiences, I'd be delighted, to hear them. Okay. So I'll just stop sharing the screen. Stop share. Okay. So please just wow, I'm just seeing how many people are here. I'm flattered that you've all come to listen now. So I suppose, yes, just just ask me a question. Ask in any language you want to, and I will try to respond in the same language that I can, because as I said, it doesn't feel right to limit a discussion about learning languages, apart from English, to English. Anyone have any great experiences?
Or terrible ones? Thank you for this presentation. It was great, and definitely very informative and eye-opening. So thank you for it, and felicitări încă o dată. Te descurci foarte bine și cu limba română și sunt vei avansa în continuare.
Ana Maria, tu ești mea profesoră de limba română? Mulțumesc mult. pots, vezi cum eu stau cesc limba română pe Twitter și mi place foarte mult vorbesc limba ta foarte rău în fiecare zi.
Nu o să ce deloc și o vorbești din ce în ce mai bine, așa că ești un exemplu de urmat. Mulțumim mult pentru prezentare.
Ok, well, sunt bucuros că tu ai găsit prezentația util. Ok?
Mulțumesc.
Who else uses Twitter?
I use Twitter, but to be honest, not so often. Usually I use it in order to communicate with Italki, because I am both a teacher and also a student of different languages. So I usually follow the news of some actors that I like from different countries, or sometimes even from politicians or of my friends. And that's how actually I mainly practice my reading skills.
All right. Yeah.
But usually I use much more Facebook for language learning, because on Facebook there are so many Facebook groups where there are useful materials that you can follow. And if you are brave enough, if you are like really, if you have really good command of this language, you can even try and writing some kind of meeting, friendship and stuff like that in the target language, so that you can connect directly to the people from the target country. That's what I do.
Right. So next year you can give the talk using Facebook to learn languages.
Yeah, actually that's one of my plans.
Okay. Yes, and govorim hrvatski, slabo.
Dobro.
Dobro, no, slabo. Poseu sam danas učit hrvatski. I'm planning to start butchering your language as well on Twitter today. So if you get onto Twitter today unusually, then I will start the butchery of your language on Twitter.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yes, I'm on Twitter. No worries.
Okay, yeah. So I'll even write about you butchering your language as I do so. Okay.
Cool.
Oh, by the way, there's a question here about the simultaneous translator. Her name was Lomb Kato. Unfortunately, Nem Tudok Mudirol. I don't speak what do you call it, Hungarian, so I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But there was well, Kato Lomb. Or I think, yeah. Or actually, yeah. Yes, but yeah, she was able to translate simultaneously in 10 languages. I think she knew about 16 languages. And yeah, she said language learning is the one thing worth doing even badly. And that's completely true. I know as when I'm trying to collaborate with people as a scientist, knowing their language badly really helps, to build up some rapport with them. Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, I don't know how you should pronounce Kato Lom. I know Lindy Botas can pronounce it properly, and also Reka can also pronounce it properly, Kato Lom. But
yeah, it's Kato Lomb.
Kato Lomb.
It's a bit longer O.
Oh, okay. Kato Lomb.
Kato Lomb.
Yeah. Kato Lomb. Okay.
Yes, she even has books on how she learned all her languages and on the method she was using. She was a big fan of translation method.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what I think is fascinating is that there are so many different, ways of learning, and so many people are successful in so many different ways. So you have, the Lindy Bota's videos where she details, very nice. She has these amazing notebooks which are really detailed, and you have people on the other hand like Petra, who I was talking about in my video, who have a very unstructured approach as well. And then you have the Luco Lamparella bidirectional translation method, and obviously let's see if I get this right, Lombcato had her method too. But I think all of these people are very successful, and I think personally, I suspect that it's really the consistency that matters. I mean, rather than doing the exact method that you're using. Yes. Yes. Actually, on the subject of Twitter, is there anybody on Twitter who you guys know who maybe deserves to be mentioned at this point? Because I only mentioned a few people.
I'm just starting. On the but I mostly right now I've been following mostly Irish, but and a few other polyglots. It's been such a long time. I'm wondering.
Sorry, Sadel, would you mind saying that again, please?
Oh, can you hear me at all?
I can hear you much better now, yes.
Okay, I just moved my mic closer to my mouth. Sorry. Yeah, so I've been on Twitter since like 2007, but I hardly use it. So you're all convincing me to start using it again. And I had always used it for a completely different reasons other than languages until very recently. So right now I mostly use it to follow Irish accounts. I love what you're saying about excuse me, about butchering the language though.
Yeah. Yes, actually, you've just given me an idea for a tweet. I want to be able to say this in all the languages I know, butcher the language, because that's my philosophy. So I don't know, I know how to say it in Romanian, but I know also in Catalan, it's destrozar una llengua. And I think but it's actually use the richness of Twitter to learn new expressions in any language you want to,
and ask other people to tell you how to say butchering the language in their language or
exactly,
in the language that they're studying. I unfortunately don't know how to say that yet entirely. I could probably try to make up something that would be not right. And I could probably butcher.
Oh yes. Talking of this, it sounds so violent in Afrikaans. I can't think of a good translation. Okay. Well, give us please a butchered translation. Yeah.
Are you asking me?
Oh yeah. Oh yes, please. You say yes. Please give us your butchered Afrikaans translation of butchering the language.
I think if you directly translate butcher, it's like slachter. But that's like what you do to animals.
Yes.
So you could say ek slachter die taal, but I don't think anyone really uses that expression. So you can just say like generally I'll just say something much calmer than like to mess up something. Ek mors die taal op.
Oh, ek mors die taal op.
Yeah, good pronunciation.
Yeah. Ik mors de taal op. Ik slag de taal, ik mors de taal op.
Ik denk je doen goed.
Hartelijk bedankt. Mijn Afrikaans is heel slecht. Ik ken alleen kombuis. Dat heb ik overigens van jou geleerd. Maar, Ja, maar ik heb geluisterd een gesprek met jou, tussen jou en Camille, die Engelsleraars. En dus, dus hebben zo dit zo uitgelegd dat also dit woord eigenlijk afkomstig is van de schepen die eigenlijk gekomen zijn naar Zuid-Afrika. En dus dit woordje is gebleven in de Afrikaanse taal, maar niet meer in het Nederlands.
Ja. Gee jy om as ek vir jou 'n tip gee oor jou Afrikaans? Ja, dit klink asof jy baie Nederlands gebruik. Ek kan jou nog verstaan, maar wat jy kan doen is nie sê heb, maar het. Dan is dit daar baie meer Afrikaans. Ek het in plaas van heb.
Oh, ik het. Oh, ik het.
Ja, ek het. Dan is dit
Dus niet ik heb je taal opgemorst, maar ik het je taal opgemorst.
Opgemors.
Opgemorst.
Ja, dis reg.
Ik heb je taal opgemorst. Ik wil je taal. Ik het je taal geslacht.
Geslachter.
Geslachter. Ik heb je taal geslachter. Uitstekend. Uitstekend. Yes. Another more inspiration for a tweet. Maybe the phrase for, well, if this is being recorded, I suppose I'm not allowed to use foul language here. But
actually, what Alicia said, let me make sure my mic. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking, like what Alicia said, it all, when we say butchering a language in English, it evokes kind of an amusement response from the person hearing us. It doesn't, it's not like what Lindy just said about, if she were to use that word, it sounds a lot more violent, but it's not quite as amusing. But there are other words that you can use that would get that kind of same response in different languages.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, you bring up an interesting point, Sardel. Like at the start, I was talking about how killing two birds with one stone is a very English way of saying, expressing the concept. So I says butchering actually is also a very, I suppose maybe a very Anglophone way of saying to mess up a language or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, murdering a language, destroying. I mean, there's probably lots of other similar words you could use that would just sound funnier.
Right, yeah.
That language, Got lots of good fodder for your Twitter account now, don't you?
Fodder, actually, I wonder if that word, where that word comes from, fodder, if it's of Dutch origin, fodder, yeah. So, okay, yes, really nice variation of names. We have German names, you have Dutch names, Polish names, and Romanian names, of course, as well. Yes, I mean the other hopefully I think also one advantage of Twitter is because it is interactive. I was saying that it's better for some languages than others due to the popularity of Twitter in certain countries, compared to others. But I think also one benefit of it is if you learn languages that are less mainstream, then it's easier, I think, to find people who will speak that language with you or have interactions with you in that language, on Twitter. And I mean, it's just maybe my personal preference because I prefer the less mainstream languages. Because to use another Dutch expression, I like to be de vreemde eend in debate, so the strange duck in the ice hole. So it's also a bit of vanity. I don't like being like the other people who are learning all the mainstream languages. I prefer to learn the non-mainstream ones. But You can also see I'm an academic because I just keep talking as well. So. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming. I appreciate your attention. And yeah, I guess enjoy the rest of the conference then. Bye-bye.